Aloha Commanders, and welcome to Later Tonight with Dr. Iron Chef, hosted on Aloha Diz.
Please be sure to follow on Twitch and subscribe on YouTube for all the latest content.
Today, we discuss the new blog post from Beck of Star Trek Fleet Command. We're diving deep into the details of the latest patch, Update 79.1.
Right, and our mission here is, well, to unpack Beck's blog post from June 10th, 2025, we want to highlight the really important changes, help you figure out what they actually mean for your game.
Exactly. This patch, it seems like it's got a bit of everything, new stuff, some gameplay tweaks, and the usual improvements and fixes.
Mahalo for joining us.
Okay, let's get into it then. The post kicks off with gameplay enhancements and new content. It kind of frames it around Khan's fleet growing, which is the setup for these new additions.
Yeah, and the first really big piece here is these new hijacked refits. They're expanding them specifically for the rare FKR ships. We're talking G3 all the way up to G6.
G3 to G6, okay. And what's the deal with these refits? What do they actually do?
Well, it's sort of a two-pronged benefit, which is pretty cool. First, they give a big boost to weapon damage. Pretty standard combat upgrade.
Right, makes sense. Hit harder.
But the other part is they also give a base cost efficiency bonus, and this is specifically for the ship parts, materials, and resources needed for that particular ship.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just about fighting better, it's also like making it cheaper or faster to upgrade that specific ship.
That seems to be exactly the goal. The post says it's to help maximize both combat performance and progression speed. Double whammy.
Nice. So did they list which ships are getting these?
They did. There's quite a list, actually, broken down into different bonus tiers.
Okay, let's hear them. What's at the top?
All right, so the top tier gives a whopping plus 1,600% weapon damage and plus 300% cost efficiency. That's huge.
1,600%. Wow. Which ships get that?
That's for the hijacked TOS Enterprise, which gets renamed USS Titan with the refit. Also, the hijacked D7 class, becoming KOS Karius, and the hijacked TOS Bird of Prey gets called Velo X.
Okay, Titan, Koskari, Vilux. Got it. What about the next step down?
The next tier offers plus 1,200% weapon damage and plus 250% cost efficiency. Still really solid numbers.
Yeah, definitely. And those go on.
Those are for another version of the hijacked 2S Enterprise, the USS Crozier. Then there's the hijacked D7 class, the QEV Sompek, and the hijacked 2S Bird of Prey called Sansa 2.
Okay. Crozier, Quif Sanctus, and it keeps stepping down.
Yep. Then you've got a tier with plus 500% weapon damage and plus 200% cost efficiency. That's for the hijacked TOS Enterprise, USS Newton, the hijacked D7 Coronar, and the hijacked Bird of Prey.
Newton, Coronar, Pelham. Okay. And the last tier.
The base level they introduced here gives plus 300% weapon damage and plus 100% cost efficiency. Stynos boost.
For sure. Which ones are those?
That's for yet another hijacked TOS Enterprise, the USS Intrepid, the hijacked D7 class, the BRL, and the hijacked TOS Bird of Prey, the Gladius.
Intrepid, BRL, Gladius. Wow. Okay, so that's what, 12 new refits across those three ship types, G3 to G6? That could really shake things up for those specific hulls?
Absolutely. It feels like a way to bring some of those maybe slightly older but still cool ships back into relevance, or at least make them more efficient to work on.
Makes sense. Okay, so refits are a big piece. What else is new on the gameplay and content front?
This next one is pretty major, and the post calls it out specifically. It's about player feedback.
Oh, what did they change based on feedback?
They've added 8 new Augment Exile systems to the galaxy.
8. Wow. Whereabouts?
Scattered across different level ranges. The post explicitly says this is a direct result of player feedback trying to ease up the congestion, when you're grinding those revenge hostiles.
Yes. System crowding in Augment space. That's definitely a pain point for a lot of players. So more systems should help spread people out.
Exactly. That's the idea. Less fighting over spawns, hopefully.
So where are these new systems? What levels?
Okay, so they've grouped them. For level 40 players, there are 2 called Philo and Sandvice.
Philo and Sandvice, okay. Level 40?
For level 50s, they added Delrich and Loduca.
Delrich and Loduca, got it.
Level 60 gets Juthe and Rentis.
Juthe, Rentis.
And then for level 70 players, there's Arioth and Trail.
Arioth and Trail. So pairs of systems at 40, 50, 60, and 70. That covers a good chunk of the player base dealing with augment grinding. That's actually a really welcome change.
Yeah, it seems like a direct response to a very common frustration. Good to see that feedback loop working.
Definitely. Anything else on the new content side?
One more thing, yeah. It's a quality of life improvement for the Boldly Go events.
Oh, what'd they change?
You can now preview the upcoming objectives within the event screen. and track your progress better overall.
Oh, that's fantastic, because before you kind of had to finish the current stage to even see what the next one required, right?
Yeah.
Made planning tricky.
Exactly. You were flying blind sometimes. Now you can actually look ahead, see, okay, the next stage needs X amount of ore or whatever, and plan accordingly. It allows for more strategy.
Yeah, that's a much better system. Moving from reactive to proactive, like you said.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so that covers the new stuff.
Yeah.
Impactful refits, much needed augment space, and better event visibility.
Right. So the second half of the blog post deals with the bug fixes and improvement section. Sounds like a pretty standard sweep of various issues.
Yeah, they usually have a list of these. Let's see what they squashed this time. Anything major jump out?
Well, they broke it down a bit. First, some interface and HUD improvements, little visual cleanup things mostly.
It's like what?
They fixed an issue where the DTI favors dropdown in the faction store was overlapping the View Galaxy button. Minor, but annoying.
I think I've seen that one.
Also fixed the locked overlay sticking around on the Away Teams tab even after you'd unlocked it.
Right. And another away teams one.
Yeah, the currency icon overlapping the start button in assignments, they sorted that. And for newer players, apparently tapping the locked holodeck button wasn't showing the right tooltip explaining how to unlock it. That's fixed now for Ops 120.
Okay, just general UI tidiness. What about fixes to actual gameplay mechanics, stuff that affects how things work?
Couple of things there. They fixed that bug where ships sometimes kept mining even after their cargo hold was full.
Oh yeah, that is annoying. Wasting time, risking the ship for nothing. Good fix.
Definitely. And there was apparently a visual bug, only visual, mind you, where ships that weren't the USS Reliant were incorrectly showing a warp range increase when docked.
Huh. Weird. Glad that's cleared up to avoid confusion.
And one more. Lorca's Fist ability button sometimes vanished from the HUD after you looked at the Solar Wave Defense Object Viewer. They restored that.
Okay, good. Getting those gameplay quirks ironed out is always nice. How about event and task management? Any fixes there?
Yeah, a couple. They adjusted the FKR toggle in daily goals. Now it only shows up when daily goals actually unlock at Syndicate level 27. Just cleans up the UI for lower levels.
Makes sense.
More importantly, perhaps, they mention an improvement to address the continuous refreshing issues people sometimes see in Alliance tournaments.
Oh, the tournament refresh loop.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that improvement helps. That can be really disruptive.
Fingers crossed. They also mentioned better scrolling performance in the Events tab on mobile, both Android and iOS. Just general smoothness.
Always welcome. Anything under research or visuals?
Just one specific mention. Fixing a visual glitch where you'd get blank node art if you accessed Starship Research through the Vindicator's research button. Small visual fix.
Okay. And the last category they mentioned was in-game communication clarity. What needed clarifying?
Sounds like they wanted to make sure information presented in the game is accurate. One example was clarifying the difference between Sigma Tritanium and regular Tritanium in the Reliant Megaclaim bundle description.
Okay. Making sure bundle contents are crystal clear. Good call.
And also something about correcting a misleading pop-up in Away Team's officer assignment, specifically when assigning officers from missions that were ready to collect, just making sure the messages aren't confusing.
Right, clarity is key in a complex game like this. So, okay, let's sort of wrap our heads around Update 79.1 based on this post from Beck. It feels like a pretty solid mid-month patch.
Yeah, definitely. You've got those really targeted enhancements like the new hijacked refits for G3, G6 FKR ships, aiming to boost both power and efficiency. That's pretty significant.
And the huge addition of 8 new Augment Exile systems. That's a direct response to player feedback on congestion, which is great to see. A real quality of life structural change.
Absolutely. And then layered on top of that is this whole raft of bug fixes and improvements. Interface tweaks, fixing weird gameplay behaviors, making events run smoother, better communication clarity.
Individually, maybe small fixes, but added together, they should make the day-to-day experience just feel, a bit less bumpy.
For sure. So as you're playing, think about how these changes might hit your game. Are those refits suddenly making an old ship in your dock look interesting again? Is finding an empty augment system actually easier now?
Or maybe you just notice the UI feels a little cleaner, or the event tab scrolls better. It all adds up.
And the blog post wraps up, like they often do, saying it's part of their ongoing mission. Keep the feedback coming, boldly go, all that good stuff. Signed off by the Star Trek Fleet Command Team.
Which leads perfectly into our final thought for you today. That blog post explicitly, clearly stated that the new Augment Exile systems were added directly linked to feedback, what does that tell you about the power your voice, the community's voice, actually has in shaping a persistent online game like Star Trek Fleet Command?
And maybe more personally, how does seeing that direct link encourage you to maybe offer your own constructive feedback in the future, knowing it can actually lead to changes like this? Something to think about.
Be sure to follow Dr. Iron Chef on Twitch and subscribe to Aloha Diz on YouTube.
Mahalo for joining us.